They probably would have won a championship, or at least got close to winning a championship. And Chris Paul was going to the Lakers. So yeah, Lamar Odom was supposed to go to New Orleans along with a bunch of picks and shit, first round picks from the Lakers and I think Houston. And David Stern vetoed the trade, and I'm gonna tell you why he vetoed the trade. Now he just came out and basically said the reason why the trade with Chris Paul to the Lakers didn't go through is because of Mitch Kupchak, and he says because Mitch Kupchak panicked at the last minute, and basically he didn't want to destroy the dynamics of his team that he had already built from those two playoff championship runs in the three-peat team that was trying to three-peat that ended up losing to Dallas that same season or whatever. And I think that was over like the summer. So basically, none of that I don't think any of that happened between the Did it happen during the season? Because I remember they was talking about it, but um that was right before he went to the Clippers. So depending on what time it was, I mean that three-peat team could have three-peated with Chris Paul. I mean they would have lost Powell, but they would have had him, Kobe, uh, Drew, and a bunch of other. I mean they bench part would have suffered because Lamar Odom, like I said, he was part of that deal. But him, Kobe, Dwight, um, just assuming that Dwight still go to the Lakers that same year. But they would have had a nice little squad to kind of compete with every team in the West, including San Antonio, Miami, OKC. A lot of those squads, and David Stern ruined it. He talking about it's because Mitch Kupchak panicked at the last minute. Let me tell you something. Even though Mitch Kupchak just got fired and they got Magic and Genie running the operations now with the Lakers, I'll tell you something about Mitch Kupchak. Mitch Kupchak is an understudy of the late Dr. Jerry Buss and and um and Jerry West. He's an understudy of those guys. He learned how to build a team and learn how to make moves and put his team in position to build around Kobe. Same way Jerry West built around Shaq and Phil. He built around Kobe and anybody that was coaching him at the time, whether it was I forgot what the dude that coached Kobe the first time after Phil left. Oh yeah, Rudy Tomjanovich, and then Phil came back. Like so, Mitch Kupchak was part of a lot of that shit. He brought Lamar Odom over there from the Clippers or from Miami. He brought when they traded Shaq. He drafted Javars Crenton. And he really didn't pan out like that. I mean, he was solid when he went to the Wizards. He I think he had Karan Butler too, and Karan Butler was a young prospect. I think when he traded Shaq at that point, and Karan ended up in Miami, um, and a bunch of other shit. Like he drafted Andrew Manners. You know what I'm saying? Under the stewardship of Dr. Jerry Buss, they drafted Andrew Manners. They got Pau Gasol from Memphis. And that train robbery, that was a trade when they traded Kwame Brown and a bunch of other little first round picks and shit, and some other players to Memphis, including Marc Gasol, which everybody be like, oh, I bet you they wish they had Marc Gasol now. Yeah, but at the time, you know what I'm saying, that wasn't like no 4 or 5 year trade. A lot of people forget Powell stayed in LA for a good minute. Like what was that? What 07, 08, 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So he stayed in LA for about he stayed in LA for about 5 or 6 years. I mean, it seemed a little longer than that, but Powell stayed in LA for a significant amount of time and won 2 titles. And he made the playoffs damn near every year that he was there. And then they dealt him. Made the playoffs every year that he was there. Had a way more productive career with the Lakers than he's had with any other team besides Memphis. And the only reason why he really had that much production in Memphis was because he was the only dude there. And he had to carry that load. But you know what I'm saying? Back to the real subject at hand, man. Like David Stern full of shit. David Stern know goddamn well that he was the one that vetoed that trade, and the reason why he vetoed that trade was because of Dan Gilbert. Dan Gilbert, if you remember at the time, Dan Gilbert was still pissed off that LeBron went to South Beach. And when that trade was on the table and they was about to finalize the deal. Now look, I'm not saying that he lying, but I got a real good suspicion that he lying, considering that he got he got a history of doing shit like this. You know what I'm saying? He will always screw the Knicks out of fucking titles because he loved Jordan so goddamn much. And then obviously he will want somebody to pass the torch from Kobe. So of course he needed, LeBron to be the next guy to start winning titles. So of course he was gonna veto that damn trade. He ain't wanted to be a 2-team league because he probably was like, Dan Gilbert was probably like, it was gonna be a 2-team league. Chris Paul go to. How the fuck you know that? When I just said that Pau Gasol was on the table and he was going to Houston. Houston at the time, and they still had. I think they still had Yao, even though Yao was on the. No matter of fact, he might not have been there at the time, but I know they still had. McGrady. He was still valuable. I think, like I said, Trevor Ariza would have been dealt to New Orleans. Lamar Odom would have been dealt to New Orleans. So those pieces right there for the Hornets. So you got teams in the West that's gonna be able to compete. You know what I'm saying? They might not win a championship, but you got teams that's gonna compete. And just because Chris Paul went to the Lakers don't mean they was a clear-cut favorite to win a fucking championship. Because you still got the Spurs, you still had Houston, like I said, and you still had New Orleans. Even at the time that Chris Paul was having trouble with them, they were still competing for playoff spots. They would win 40 to 45 games in the West and motherfucking, you know what I'm saying, make the playoffs and shit, compete for championships. Nigga, the Suns was nice back then. That second championship, that second straight championship that the Lakers won when they had to, you know what I'm saying, when they beat Boston the second time around, they had to go through the Suns in the Western Conference Final. Y'all forget that shit. And the Suns was even better than those 2006, 2005, and 2006 squads. Because they were scoring even more points a game. They didn't play a lot of defense, but they were scoring over 120 points a fucking game. And y'all want to talk about, it's going to be a 2-team league with Dan Gilbert bitch ass. Because he mad that LeBron went to South Beach and shit. And everybody remember that motherfucking letter that he wrote. LeBron still ain't forget about that shit. And I'm not a huge LeBron James fan, dog. Because I don't like a lot of the shit that he pulled when he on the court. Especially that shit that happened last year in the finals. But for Dan Gilbert to sit up there and bitch because he went to Miami and he knew that he was gonna have to rebuild without LeBron, and he didn't put a fucking plan in place in order to rebuild without LeBron. He was pissed off because he knew he wasn't gonna be able to compete for championships no more. That's why he wrote that letter. That's why he said what the fuck he said in the midst of that Chris Paul trade, and that's why David Stern vetoed the shit. So that's why David Stern vetoed the fucking trade. It was because of Dan Gilbert, not Mitch Kupchak. Fuck David Stern. And fuck Dan Gilbert for snitching and shit. Fucking bum. You know what I'm saying? Sitting up there at the motherfucking podium and shit last year when they, you know what I'm saying, when he won the title and shit, LeBron crying and shit on the court. Nigga, they gave you a title. They felt sorry for you and they felt sorry for your owner and shit. You know what I'm saying? But y'all, I mean, if y'all look, if y'all don't know the fucking truth about that motherfucking about that Chris Paul trade, nigga, look it up. And look on YouTube and shit. And y'all can find videos of people talk about the comments that Dan Gilbert made about that shit, about how it's gonna be a 2-team league and small markets and blah 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 blah. Come on, man. Look that shit up, man. Y'all smarter than that, man. I know David Stern been full of shit, man. But anyway, man, I'm out.